It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, where we continue to talk about incredible classic beers that you should be drinking this weekend, that you should be seeking out because they don't get the love and respect they so rightfully deserve. And we have Smuttynose Robust Porter. Now, for those of you that follow the series continuously, you'll know that I did Finest Kind IPA, probably a month or so back. Smuttynose is a brewery that I've loved for years, and I did not find this beer here in South Florida for a very long time. Stumbled across Finest Kind, stumbled across Robust Porter at Total Wine & More randomly, and got thrilled, picked them both up, knew I had to do them both for Old Favorite Friday. Been holding on this one for a while. This is a spectacular porter. Porter is one of my favorite beer styles. I love malt forward beers. I love beers that are roasty, that are full flavored, and beers that do that all by being dry and drinkable. Too often now we have every dark beer has to have adjuncts in it. It has to be barrel aged. It has to be sweet. This is not that. This is an incredibly well balanced porter. It is a robust porter, and robust porter, listen, every brewery they can label their beer whatever they want, but typically if you look at like the BJCP guidelines on what a robust porter is supposed to be, you're talking about a beer that's a little bit heavier than a normal porter, right? A little bit hoppier usually, and having a little more bitter or roast malt character. Those are the kind of the three things you look for. And just for you to know and to understand why this beer is so good and so well respected in brewing circles, this is one of the examples listed by the BJCP, the Beer Judge Certification Program, from which we judge beers by. This is one of the beers listed as the style guideline, along with some great names like Sierra Nevada Porter, Bell's Porter, Edmund Fitzgerald Porter. So it's in great company and for good reason. Smuttynose, brewery from New Hampshire, been around since 1994, so they've been around for a long time. These guys were making beer when I was still in high school, and this beer itself was brewed way back in 2000. So a 24-year-old beer that is absolutely spectacular, has won a gold medal at Great American Beer Fest, and I don't think it gets the love that it should. Probably because it's a porter. Porters don't get the love that they should in general. But this beer is spectacular. Dark fruit. I'm picking a lot of dark fruit to go along with the bitter malt flavor here of that, the typical coffee, chocolate flavors that you get from a porter. But they have a little Special B malt in here, which is a beer malt that I know well because I've used it a lot over the years. It's a malt typically used in Belgian brewing that gives off this kind of raisin and fig dark fruit to really add some complexity to this. It's not just a one-dimensional, this is bitter, this is chocolate, this is coffee. It's got other layers going on to make it a really pleasurable experience. As it warms up, you're even getting more of that like dark fruit flavor, getting some like a black breadiness there. This is just a really complex, really interesting beer that if you're into porters and you haven't had that, you gotta try it. It would be ridiculous not to. I like to look at also the scores and the ratings of these beers sometimes. I don't talk about it a lot on Old Favorite Friday, but I looked this up on Untappd and it had a 3.68. And that's not a great score. It's not a terrible score, but it just kind of goes to show you that like when you aggregate every single person to ever pick this beer up and compare it to someone that knows beer and has been doing it professionally for a long time, you often get very disparate results. This is a spectacular beer. It deserves a much, much higher score. It is so well made, but you get a lot of people on these rating websites that will say, they don't like porters. They don't like dark beers, but they rate it and they give it a 1 or a 2. Not really kind of rating it to style or having any real understanding of what the beer is supposed to be. So I'm just bringing this up so that if you ever are the kind of person who looks at those kind of scores and say, hey, Kevin recommended this beer. I looked at it on tap. It didn't have the best score, so I went with something else. If this sounds like the kind of beer you'll like, trust me, this is the kind of beer that you're gonna like. Don't necessarily be a slave to those scores because they can often be misleading. Sorry, I just had to have another sip of this because this beer is amazing. Looking at the food pairings, we always like to talk about the food pairings with these beers. One of the things that I think of when I'm drinking this, because of that dark fruit flavor, because porters are really good with like smoked meats and things of that nature, I'm thinking prosciutto wrapped figs. I think that would be an excellent pairing for this. Adding some roast bitterness to that, but accentuating the dark fruit flavor, leaning into the like smoked meat. I think it's going to be dynamite. That would be a fantastic pairing. The other thing that I'm thinking about that I'm not sure if it would go well, I'd love to try it together, would be chorizo. I think chorizo would actually go really, really well here. Not necessarily like tacos with like cilantro, tomato, things of that nature. I think that would overpower that. But maybe with like a chorizo rice would go really well. Or even, if you know our brewery, Chef Eats, if he made a chorizo burger that was big and rich and had maybe some nice cheese on there, some dark salty cheese, or some white salty cheese on there would go really, really well to pair with a porter like this that's robust and flavorful and could really bring out all that smoke and deliciousness and the fattiness that would go really, really well with this. So I hope you guys try the Smuttynose Robust Porter if it's available in your area. I hope that if you don't have this beer available, but you have another Smuttynose beer, try it out. They're really, really good. They've been really, really good for a long time. There's a reason why they have the respect they do in the industry. Sorry, I had to have one more sip. And just in general, drink more porters. If you like roasty, if you like that bitter chocolate, if you like that kind of flavor profile, seek these beers out, because I remember back in the day, every single craft brewer you walked into, if you walked into a craft brew pub, they had a porter on draft, and I was a happy guy. Smoked porters, there's just so many great things you can do with it. A Baltic porter, all different beer styles that are interesting and complex, and they're just kind of evaporating because people are focusing so much more on adjunct beers, and everyone's had to have 7 hazy IPAs. If you are a supporter of these beers, these kind of breweries, please go out there, seek these out. Tell the people with your dollars that this is the kind of beer that you miss in the market and you want more of it. Please continue to tell us what we should be drinking for Old Favorite Friday so we can put it on the list, hopefully do that in the near future. And please poke around on the channel, like, subscribe, do all that great stuff, and look at the other videos we've done about beers that are just like this. Wonderful, incredible, often overlooked in a criminal manner. So thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Cheers.